BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor and take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward. In today's episode, I interview Rob Chilcoat. Rob is a 2-time NCAA Division I national champion in men's volleyball. He is now the Associate Head Volleyball Coach at Brown University for the women's team. We discuss Rob's coaching journey, the importance of finding the right mix that makes the ideal student athlete, the challenges and successes along his journey, and the significance of club volleyball in the recruiting process. His story is absolutely inspirational and will impact you as a listener.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Kollman Gearhart. A former athlete and motivational coach, I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living all my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land.
Project has had unbelievable guests, influencers, people that are impacting lives. And I am honored today to be connected to someone that is indirectly tied to someone that's impacted my life. Coach Tyler Pazek Performance Group was someone that I came across as I've developed my coaching journey and being part of Evo Sports Collective. And this happens to be a good friend of his, someone that might represent him here in the near future in a wedding. And it just brings me a tremendous honor to bring the Associate Head Coach of Brown Women's Volleyball, Rob Chilcoat. Welcome to the BTB Project.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent. No, it's humbling to have you on because here I am, a tennis guy. And before we hopped on, we were talking about how small of a world it is. There's a lot of great talent out there in the volleyball world. And you've been able to see that at Brown with your time there and being able to have the opportunities to find that mix of student athlete based off of the rigors of an Ivy League program. I'd love for you to start and share with the listeners about what does it mean to you to be at Brown and being able to find that mix of student athlete?
Yeah, I think the players I recruit to Brown and the people here in this community are elite achievers, right? They set a goal and they just relentlessly attack that goal day in, day out until they achieve it. I think we have a 5.5% acceptance rate. And yeah, the women that I get to coach and the women that I get to coach alongside on the coaching staff are just phenomenal human beings. And then they pursue with such grace and such vigor. And it's just, I go to work and I'm challenged by everyone around me. Everyone is so intelligent and I don't know. I love my job and I love being around the people that I get to see myself around every day and coach. So it's a fantastic place. And obviously Brown's a world-class institution and they get to go, I'm having my first class graduate here in May that I helped bring in. And that's a pretty crazy thing. And they're going to go out and one of them's going to go work at JP Morgan and she's going to go way high up there and she's probably going to rule the world one day. So yeah, it's an awesome place.
Yeah, that's so awesome to hear you say that because from my perspective as a coach, it's, we're seed planters. And as much as we want these kids to perform for our respective programs that we're part of, it's always the fruits of the labor to see them be good Samaritans to society. So when it comes to being part of that culture, being part of that athletic and academic pedigree, what about Brown attracted you to want to be there as a coach?
I got here in April of 2021. The head coach at the time, Ahen Kim, I knew his wife, and she told me that he was looking for a recruiting coordinator. And I called him up, and I'll be honest, I kind of like interviewed him. And over the course of 3 phone calls, and I asked him about his core values. I asked him a lot about stuff like off the court, and then obviously like on the court stuff. And I really bought into his vision of what he was trying to do at Brown. And, with the fact that we are a world-class institution, we get to go out and recruit these top level athletes and bring them in here, and they get to have an incredible student athlete experience. And when Ahen got to Brown in 2019, Brown was bottom of the table, 8th place. Year 1 got him to 6th place. Year 2 got him to 4th place. Then COVID hits, Ivy League didn't play. And then I came in, and I was very fortunate in year 1. We won an Ivy League championship. Yeah, right. So it was just, I really bought into his vision. And then I got here, and I've been able to really sink my roots into Brown and into Providence, Rhode Island. And I met my fiance here. We're getting married here in August. And like I said, the community here is just absolutely incredible. And it's somewhere that I can see myself being for a long time.
Yeah, it's cool. And as I reflect on what you're saying and knowing the location of Brown makes me tick into some of the things I experienced as a tennis player. I got to play a couple of the qualifying tournaments down at Newport, Rhode Island at the Tennis Hall of Fame. And the grass courts, my uncle lives in Wellesley, Massachusetts. I'd fly into Boston and drive into that area. And it's such a serene place. And I think of Brown and these Ivy League schools as just incredibly prestigious. I got to ask, man, from like coach to coach, you walk in and win an Ivy League championship. Did they have a parade or put a statue up of you after that? Was it something that was celebrated, or was it a shock to everybody? Honestly.
Look, I'm an assistant coach. No one really cares about me. But no, the team was very much celebrated. The volleyball program is one of the stewards of Brown athletics, right? And we take such great pride in being that. So yeah, we have full support from our administration, from the school and the community, right? One of the great things about New England is that there's so much volleyball here. There's more volleyball here than any place I've ever lived. And everybody knows the sport. It's not like random people walk off the street like, oh, I was a bumper, right? Like people know the sport. And so when we get fans into games, like fans know how to cheer, they know how to like talk trash. And yeah, when we play at home, it's a tough environment because we pack that thing out and the fans get after it. So like I said, it's an incredible place.
Now, Brown is where you are, and you've had just tremendous success, Rob, in your short tenure there. But I'm curious, when it comes to volleyball in general, tennis, especially men's tennis, is not a sport that is always, I guess, maybe high on the totem pole with college athletics and funding.
Sure.
When I think of your journey, I'd love for you to tap into why volleyball and how in the world did this sport be something that resonated with you back in the day, man?
Sure. Grew up in Richmond, Virginia. My mom actually started boys volleyball in high school in Virginia so that I could play. I played on a girls team, I think, until I was like 11. And then the boys volleyball got started where there were enough guys that I could join a team. And I had those high hopes of going to play Division I and winning a national championship. And I look back now and I had that mentality of D1 or bust. And it's not necessarily like the correct mentality to have. I was definitely a D2 player. I would have been like really good at D2, probably even better at D3, but I just had this mentality of D1 or bust. Like I want to win a national championship. And so I pursued my recruiting in that avenue, and I got an offer from Loyola Chicago my senior year. And yeah, I committed to Loyola. And at the time, I think they were like second in the MIVA in their conference and 14th in the country overall, but there's only like 20 schools. So what does that even mean? But yeah, I got to Loyola and we grinded just day in and day out. And Shane Davis, my head coach, he was there for 4 years. So you got Shane, you got Chris Berzins and Mark Holst. That was my coaching staff. And I was really fortunate to have all 3 of those guys as my coaching staff, as my coaches for my whole 4 years, which I think is rare. And that's something like as a coach, I try and emulate as best as I can. And yeah, we just focus on the process, right? Of what are our systems, and then how do we get better at our systems, and how do we how do we keep getting better? And my freshman year, we lost in the semis of the conference, and it wasn't great. Sophomore year, we make it to the Final Four. We win the conference championship, make it to the Final Four, and we lose to UC Irvine. They go on to win it all. And then I'll never forget, I actually just went back to Chicago this past weekend. We celebrated, Loyola honored us with the 10-year anniversary of our first national championship.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that first preseason practice. We walked in and it was just like, the level was just like out of this world. The competition was, I'd never been in a gym that was that competitive. With the coaches didn't have to get on you. Like, you mess up, like the guy to your left and your right was just like down your throat about it.
Wow.
And we went on and we lost one match that whole year, and we beat Stanford on our home court to win our first national championship. And then we graduate, I think 3 seniors that started, and then we brought, I think 5 or 6 freshmen in, and they stepped into those roles. And yeah, then my senior year, we ended up beating Lewis, one of our conference rivals, at Stanford. Stanford hosted it, but we won 23-21 in the 5th set. And so that's as far as you can go. Volleyball's played the best 3 sets out of 5. And this set, you played a 15, win by 2. It was the wildest sporting event that I've ever been a part of. We were up 14-11, and they served themselves back in. And all of a sudden it's 15-14, and they've got national championship point, and we just like battled point by point, and we were very fortunate to come out on top of that for our second one. Yeah, that's my journey. And as far as how did I get to Loyola and how did I get to my playing career? And I'll tell you a little bit about me as a player. I think I have 6 kills, maybe not even that. I have 6 attempts and maybe 2 kills on my career. I didn't play at all. I wasn't an Olympic caliber athlete. But like I bought into the team aspect of Loyola, and like, I had my role, and I tried my best every day to be the best version of myself in my role, which sometimes in practice was just me calling lines. It wasn't even me getting to practice. It was just like in, out, touch. And that's my experience at Loyola is a huge reason of why I'm a coach, because I got to see the game from a kind of a different lens, because I didn't play a lot. I sat back and I watched a lot of people just because I wasn't good enough. And then my coaches had a huge impact on me. And yeah, I got done with Loyola and I went over to England. I played over there. I got my master's over there. And then coaching was my calling, and I jumped right in. So I got my master's, got done with that, and then jumped right into coaching as an assistant at the D2 level at 22 years old, and haven't looked back.
Yeah, it's remarkable. And as you're saying that, I just resonate deeply because my tennis path was very similar. I was not highly recruited in high school. I started late. I know, being a coach 17, 18 years later, that it's not always the best players that make the best coaches. And I think that's really amazing that you were able to have that understanding of, listen, a remarkable playing career, but you knew that you wanted to be a coach. And knowing that, Rob, and obviously at Brown now, when it came to your first opportunity to become a coach, I'd love for you to talk to the listeners about what opportunity came about and what was it like to take the floor on a volleyball court as a coach for the first time, man.
Yeah. So I got an opportunity to be an assistant at the University of West Alabama, that's located in Livingston, Alabama, in the middle of nowhere. And the first time I got on court, I just remember like the themes of, wow, it's really weird being on this side of the ball. And I think one thing that stuck out from that first season at UWA was being able to, the players that I had the chance to coach that year were just, they were ready to invest everything they had into the systems that we were trying to put in place. And the head coach I went to work for, that was her first year as well. So there was new life coming into the program. And those girls just worked their butts off. And I don't think West Alabama had a winning season in like 10 years or something before we got there. And year 1, 17-16, year 2, 19-11. And then year 3, we made the NCAA tournament. So It was I'm so grateful for West Alabama because it helped me like really just like hone my craft of on-court coaching and then figuring out the recruiting side and then figuring out how to have the relationships and develop the relationships with the players. Like on the men's side, the relationships it wasn't quite the same as on the women's side, I would say. But that's why I coach is the relationships that I have with the people around me that surround the program.
Yeah, the relationship piece, right? A lot of the stuff that I experienced as a player was I had a lot of coaches growing up. And I promised myself when I decided to become a coach that I wanted to be like a coach I never had. And the relationship piece was so important to me because I just wanted somebody to ask me how I'm doing and how they can help.
Yep.
And I am a big believer, and I want to get your 2 cents on this, is I never want to coach at a player. I want to coach with a player.
Yeah.
And that collaborative approach, leading with open-ended questions to get players to talk, to get to understand why they tick, why they're there, how to align to help them. What's your coaching style and how much are you tapping into open-ended questions?
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? I try not to use, when I'm working with my athletes, I try not to use the word why. I try to just ask them like, hey, what did you see there? What led you to make that decision? And yeah, I think it's all about what did you see and how can I empower you to go out in big moments, trust yourself and go for it, right? That was one of our mottos this past season was go for it. Don't be timid, just go for it. And if you fail, so be it. But you're probably gonna succeed if you go for it. Unfortunately, we lost in the championship, but it was a testament that we got there. But I think it's about how can I help you become the best version of yourself? And then I think I know volleyball at a decent level. And so like how can I help my players like grow their volleyball IQ, if you will, so that they can go out there and make better decisions. And yeah, how can I help them be the best version of themselves is like the big theme, I would say.
Yeah. And as you're talking through that, we touched on this a little bit earlier, is being able to have this balancing act of incredibly cerebral kids that are part of this program that you're running, and to allow them to perform but not overthink. And I see it too myself as a coach. I'm an assistant coach at a private high school in Colorado, and 200 to 300 kids a year get turned away because they're not accepted. And then the kids that are there have a lot of pressure that they put on themselves, or a lot of expectation that when they take the court, it's like, how do I coach them through the pressure and expectations they put on themselves? Or do you guys put some things in place to get some of those monkeys off their back before they're competing for you?
Yeah, I think the pressure, we talk about the pressure is there. We're not going to dance around it. If you're playing for a championship, like you're playing for a championship, we try and bring it back to the process, right? If you're on the service line, what do you need to do to be successful from the service line? You need to go through your routine. You see the signal coming from the coach, you go through the routine, and then you have your one thought and you go out there and you execute. And then it's DYJ, right? Do your job. And everybody trains their job and their systems and practice. And our gym's pretty competitive. Hopefully there's not a lot of thinking that's going on. It's just like second nature here, and you're going back with it. And then our girls struggle with it, just like you're saying about failure. They don't want to let their teammates down. They don't want to let us coaches down. And that's something that we talk about every single day. It's about getting out of the don't zone and getting into the do zone. You can't sit here where like, I don't want to fail. It's like, how can I go out there and be successful? What do I need to do to be successful? And when our players reframe it like that, they tend to find more success.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. And I recently had somebody on the podcast, Rob, that was a dual athlete. She played tennis and volleyball, was able to win 4 consecutive state championships in tennis and won as a team in volleyball her junior year.
Is that Casey?
Yeah.
I listened to that one. That's good.
Yeah. Awesome, man. No, I appreciate that. And it was fascinating, like listening to her, because, and what I want to ask on your professional opinion as a coach is, club volleyball is a very real thing. And a lot of these kids that are coming into these college programs, yes, they might play high school volleyball, but I'm sure that the club level is something that you're paying attention to in the recruiting process.
Yeah.
With that said, and I'm going to advocate for all the volleyballers out there that are trying to figure out how to separate themselves when it comes to the recruiting process. How important is club volleyball? And what would be your advice on where to spend your time as an elite high school and or club volleyball player in the process?
Yeah. So I think club volleyball is really important in the process. Unfortunately, high school volleyball and college volleyball run in the same season. And so those elite schools that have unlimited budgets can go out or whatever, but everybody else that's not an elite Power 5 school, we're a little bit relegated in terms of being able to go out and be able to see them play live. So our recruiting season's in the spring. That's when the club season runs. And a lot of times club volleyball is the highest level volleyball that you're going to be able to play, right? I think a club volleyball player coming up through the ranks, you got to play at the highest level you can with the best people, and you got to challenge yourself and put yourself in the most challenging environment you possibly can. And for a lot of places, that is club.
I see it in tennis where there's this discrepancy of, in volleyball and tennis, you basically have tennis tournaments that are year round that are away from the high school scene that give you a ranking of which the college coaches are always paying attention to. And I am resonating with Casey because she made a tough decision to stop pursuing club volleyball because she was only 5'7" and outside hitter. And she felt, oh, I might not be able to play in college. So I'm going to go after this tennis thing. And I'm just wondering how many kids, because hearing your story of you weren't a highly recruited guy, you were somebody that was more on the average of development than the elite of development. Yeah. What would you say to a kid that's on the average of development that wants to get after a Brown University opportunity? Is it how they align themselves in club or the fitness side, the mental side? I'd love for you to give the blueprint, man.
Yeah. This is what I tell when I'm talking with recruits. I tell them, I have to know who you are, and you have to make an effort to get on my radar, because I think there's 500,000 club volleyball players, club and high school volleyball players in the United States. And then volleyball is one of the biggest sports in the world, right? And so you have the rest of the world, which that's something that I'm paying attention to as well. And so if you're not that top tier athlete, you have to shoot me an email. You can message me on any of the social medias, but you got to put yourself in front of me. Now, you're not going to get, if you send me a full match, let's say you email me and you send me a full match, I'm probably not going to watch the whole thing. I'd say,
give me the cliff notes, right?
You get 15 seconds of my time. If you're an attacker, I'm going to watch 3 swings, which I've heard some coaches give you 1 swing. I like to give you 3 to see if there's a discrepancy, but yeah, get to put yourself in front of the coaches, whether that's blowing up their inbox, a big one's going to camp and getting in front of players. Some of the players that are currently at Brown, they did just that, right? They came to camps at Brown, and then they were just better than the players that we had on the roster. And if you're better than who I have right now, I'd be silly not to take you. So yeah, I'd say you got to get in front of us.
Yeah. And I just, it sends a shiver down my spine because I did just that. I wasn't a scholarship athlete. I was taking the scholarships rather than receiving them. And to hear from a coach that being able to have your actions speak louder than words or previous results, if you're showing up and you're actually creating the outcome in front of your eyes, that means something in 2024. That's so awesome. And when it comes to the progression that you have as a coach, I know that you were being the humble pie guy with, hey, I'm an assistant. I'm just going to make the head coach look really good. What does this whole coaching gig mean to you? And what do you want to do with it on a long-term basis as far as your goals, Rob?
Yeah. Wow. That's a really good question. What does it mean to me? I think sport teaches such great life lessons, or at least it taught me such fantastic lessons, and the ability to do that with a group. And those lessons then will help them go be successful for the rest of their life. And for me to impact them in such a small way that's one of the reasons why I do this. And I'll continue to do this for as long as I'm able to. The relationships are fantastic. I can't speak enough about how the relationships are just like a centerpiece that everything fills around. And then, not gonna lie, I love competing. I'm a huge competitor, and volleyball coaching is an avenue for me to compete. And then the last thing I'd say is I love doing hard things. I love doing hard things with people. And so what's harder than trying to go pursue a championship with a whole bunch of people and then everything else that comes along with that. And my goal is to do this for as long as I can. And at the same time, like I'm getting married here in August and I want to coach really well. And then I want to be a husband and then one day a father. And I want to try and do all these different pieces as well as I can. Being at Brown and being in the Ivy League definitely affords me a little bit more time to have a better work-life balance at Division I. That's what I'm trying to do here is win some volleyball games, help people become better versions of themselves, and then live a good life, live a good story.
Yeah, that balancing act. Here I am waving my hand, 13 years of marriage, 3 kids. We talked before. I'm out traveling with my son right now, watching him pursue his passion. And I got to know more on that, Rob, is when it comes to this next chapter of about to get married and, the balancing act of being coach and family oriented. I've dealt with that on numerous occasions. I know you mentioned that Brown can facilitate that, but when it comes to this endeavor, has it been a challenge for you to tick as a coach and tick as a guy pursuing his life?
I would say I've been very fortunate with it because my fiance is also our volunteer assistant. She's very good with data and Excel and stats. So she runs all our stats for our program. And so she comes with us on the road. She's at practices. So she's integrated into the team. And so we get to be around each other every day, not just like at home. And so I think this would be a lot tougher I think being a coach would be so much tougher if it was, I got to see you when I woke up and I got to see you when I went to bed. And so I'm very fortunate. That's not the case here. And so, yeah, Brown's fantastic because of that.
I love it. My wife was a soccer player, and I actually indirectly met her because I was watching her play a game and she got her hip dislocated in the game. And I'm like, man, it stinks for that person. And then a couple of years later, because my brother was a soccer coach and he was coaching against her team. And a few years later, it was meant to be. So I tip my hat to you for first of all, finding the alignment of someone who's there right next to you in the whole process and being a big contributor on the analytics and data side with Brown is fantastic. And Rob, it leads me to just a couple more questions for you here is this whole pedigree of, as you mentioned, the probability of being a Division I athlete. And I know you mentioned earlier about how you wish you didn't fixate on D1. I fixated on D1 tennis. It's 1.6 or 1.3% of high school participants are playing D1 tennis. I'm sure in women's volleyball, it's got to be around that same type of margin. Yep. But when it comes to a kid that just wants to be great, Rob, what advice do you give them when it comes to not necessarily volleyball terms, but just how they approach trying to be different? Because man, you and I growing up, it's a lot different in today's day and age. And I just would love to hear if you had to do it all over again and have a D1 mindset, how would you approach it?
I think it's about what do you want to achieve and what are you willing to, this kind of feels cheesy saying, but what are you willing to sacrifice for your goals? My high school career, I kind of sacrificed like the social aspect of it and everything to train and to get to the point where I could walk on to Loyola's team. So it's what do you want your experience to be, whether it's D1, D2, whatever it is, like what do you want your experience to be and what do you want to achieve? Do you want to go out and win a national championship or do you want to go somewhere where you can hold all the records at a school, right? And have all that playing time. And so it's lasering in on what are your goals and that's the 1,000-foot view. And then what are the minute by minute steps I'm going to take, if you will, of getting there? Because that's how you get there is step by step and day by day. So figure out your goals and then be relentless in your pursuit of them. Just absolutely relentless in your pursuit of them. And if you were talking about Casey, how she was 5'7" outside, I think she probably could have found her way onto a Division I team sooner or later if she had just attacked it. Most people can. So yeah, that's the advice I would say.
Yeah, I love it. It's so well said. And the understanding of the sacrifice and the relentless effort that it takes to be great, the social aspect, you giving that up, I tip my hat to you, because there's so many different social pressures in today's day and age to where it might be harder to give up now than it was when you and I were doing this. And I was busting out my flip phone and not getting blown up on Instagram or anything like that. Like, it was like, I could hone in and shut things off pretty quick, but to know that's what made you have your accomplishments is fantastic. And lastly, Rob, you got a whole horizon of excitement coming up in your life. And I think it's so cool that as a coach, you're able to find the balance of doing life, relationship, and coach.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people that aren't able to find that balance. A lot of lone wolves out there, a lot of people that have broken situations in their life because the coaching hat is a very hard hat to wear. With that said, you've done a lot, Rob. We've walked through an incredible journey that you've been on. But when it comes to your proudest moment, a moment where you're just like, whether it's as a coach or a player, or heck, it might be a couple months down the road here when you get married, I want to know what your proudest moment is as Rob Chilcoat.
No question. I remember this game that I coached in. Second year that I had ever been a coach at the Division II level. My head coach, she had a death in the family and she had to go home to Indiana. And so I was tasked with leading the team to victory against a Division I team that we were playing in a midweek game. And I didn't receive any film on them. And we walked into a gym that had, I think, probably 1,500 people, sold out. And it was a very aggressive environment. And we had Division II players going up against Division I players. And it was a wild, and I'm like the head coach, if you will. And so it was a wild 5-set battle, and we came out on the other side of victorious. And I was like, I got done with that and my hands were shaking. And I like stepped outside and I was like, wow, that was so much cooler than both of my national championships that I won. And yeah, I'd say that moment right there, like when I look back at coaching and just like the competitor in me, being able to watch those players on that team just go out, because there's this like stigma, right, of Division II or Division I, and like, we're not supposed to win that game. And they just like, they went out there and they attacked the game. And this is one of Paige's sayings, but like, when you attack, the game will protect you. It's when you stop attacking it, that's when stuff goes awry. But like, when you attack the game, it will protect you. And they just were relentless in their pursuit, and core memory right there.
Man. Yeah. When you attack the game will protect you. That's going to get on a whiteboard here pretty soon on my end. With that said, Rob, it's just been an unbelievable honor to have you on, to hear your story. I tip my hat to you. How you lead with wanting to build relationships and seeing these individuals that you come across be good people on and off the court is what makes me tick as a coach. So I definitely tip my hats. But lastly, on the BTB project, I say often that impossible is nothing. I'd love to get into a couple 2 cents on what that means to you.
Impossible is nothing. Yeah, impossible is just a constraint that you or someone else puts out there. And you can listen to that, or you can just put it aside and figure out what is possible, and then you can go do it.
Yeah, it's simple. Sometimes we can complicate it. And I appreciate the simplicity. I appreciate the time that you spent with me today on the BTB project, and keep going, man. I can't wait for the lives that you're going to continue to impact. And I wish you and Brown and your journey continued success.
All right. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Such an inspirational conversation with Rob Chilcoat, and just to hear his journey as both a player, being a 2-time NCAA national champion in men's volleyball, to how he's crossed that over into his coaching journey. Now being at Brown and helping impact those student athletes to win an Ivy League championship in his first year as a coach. It's important to understand the simplicity of Rob's advice, whether it's how to approach the recruiting process or how to manage this unbelievable rigor of collegiate coaching and his personal life. I give him a tremendous amount of credit to finding that balance and being able to walk down memory lane of that proudest moment of where he was able to overcome the odds and win a historic national championship at Loyola, not letting difficult circumstances or pressure or the moment get too big, that him and his teammates were able to come together and do something remarkable because they all believed in one another. And they thought well before the trophy was lifted about the possibilities of what they could accomplish. Rob has many incredible feats in his life, but most importantly, his advice on how to approach life and to be relentless in your pursuits and your goals and your passions and your dreams is what I hope will impact you as the listener. Listen, if Rob's story was something that resonated with you, do me a favor and like and subscribe to the BTB Project. Better yet, send this message to a family member, friend, or colleague. Tell them why the story impacted you and how it will help them. It's these types of moments where we can continue to pay that positive message forward, to impact lives, to do this in community, and to help each other become what we are built to be. I'm proud of each and every one of you. And until next time, take care.
You're told I'll be your heart, temptation.